She should have known.
Oh, God, help me.
Not to talk to strangers.
Please.
Not to get in their cars.
They're going to kill me.
Not to sleep in their beds. Especially in the dead
Please, oh, God.
of winter. Dead of Winter. Rated R.
Starts Friday at a select theater near you.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hey friends, Romans, countrymen. Welcome to another episode of Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Henrique Couto, here with my friend.
Yeah.
Let's get some good air quotes in there.
There we go.
David DeNoyer.
Greetings.
And tonight we have one of the greatest films Hitchcock did not make.
This is true. This is very true.
We are talking about a film I have always felt was underappreciated.
Yeah.
A little movie called Dead of Winter from 1987.
That is correct.
And how did you come to know this film, Dobby?
So, Dead of Winter was a discovery for me when I was at my first apartment, so we're probably talking about 2014, and I had an antenna, so I would get the channels that, some of which you turned me on to.
Yeah, because I'm smart.
Yes, yeah. So I think this was on this, if I'm not mistaken.
It wasn't on that. It wasn't on that, David.
This was on the channel. And the opening of this completely grabbed me, first off. Then seeing Roddy McDowall's name pop up, and then just overall what happens in that first opening, like 5 minutes, I was like, I'm going to check this out. And then I ended up watching.
You're going to check this out, or was it you're going to check that out?
God damn it. And then I ended up watching the whole thing, commercial breaks and all, from start to finish.
Well, you didn't do what most people do and just like hit yourself with a hammer during the commercial breaks. I won't be remembering.
I'm pretty sure I made grilled cheese. Actually, it's coming back to me now. No, like I totally made grilled cheese because I could see my TV from my kitchen back then, and also I think it was during like a little bit of a snowstorm outside, so like it added that element to it.
Now I think you're just remembering things the way you want to remember them. But okay,
grilled cheese in a snowstorm.
Okay,
that's just how I like things.
Grilled cheese in a snowstorm. 2 bits. No, I mean it sounds lovely.
It was a lazy Sunday. It was just I would just put the TV on.
A lazy Sunday in the middle of the night.
I didn't say the middle of the night.
Oh wait, you didn't say the middle of the night? I thought you said the middle of the night. Okay,
Nope.
That's my projection of what would be perfect.
No, this was like noon on a Sunday or like
oh
1.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it was a matinee.
Flick. Yeah, okay.
Hell yeah,
okay.
man.
Okay, I assumed it was at night for some reason.
How did you discover Dead of Winter, Henrique?
I don't feel that I have to answer that, and my counsel has instructed me to simply say,
I can get a warrant.
Hell. So I saw this film in my ongoing hunt for the best wintry movies.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have been looking into for forever.
Ever since I've known you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of snow movies, which we should probably mention. This is the first of several wintry films we'll be covering here on Do You Even Movie?
That is very correct.
So I found this film by literally searching best movies in snow. And I found all kinds of stuff that I'd already seen.
Yeah.
Because there's so many movies.
So many good ones too.
That are great and set in the snow.
Yeah.
Tons of Christmassy movies, things like that. Well, this one came up and I had never even heard of it. Never even heard of it. Really, you're going to drink carbonated beverage on the show?
I didn't learn my lesson last time.
Oh, boy. I hope the audience here, I hope you like belches. I hope it's your favorite thing.
I don't know if I was ever aware of this one. I think the title, like I heard the title, but I didn't know anything about it. If anything, I may have known Roddy McDowall because there was a period where I went through a lot of his movies.
Well, so this was during lockdown.
Yeah.
I was really hunting because we had a particularly cold January.
Yes, we did.
It was very, very brutal in 2021. So I was like, I want my snow movies because it's snowing like crazy. It's cold outside. I'm ordering DoorDash and just sitting here and staring at the snow out the window and then staring at the snow on my movie screen. That was literally how it went down.
Yeah.
So I found this one and a few others, and unlike a lot of the others at the time, I had to rent this one.
Yeah.
I had to pay cash money up front. It wasn't one of those free to stream, even if you're already paying for it things, which has always been a pet peeve of mine when people say it's free on the service I pay for. It's not free. You're paying for it, pal.
And for the record, this is easily available right now.
Yeah, it's very readily available. A quick search-a-rooney and you will find plenty of ways to watch it. But at the time, I could only rent it. Not only could you only rent it, but it was only available on like a very, I don't want to say like massively obscure streaming option.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like one of the main ones that we all go to. It was definitely one of the less common ones.
I've had that happen a lot in the last couple of years, especially like some of those like 90 direct to video ones that you and I've hunted down. It's like I can either get a physical copy or I can watch it here for free with ads, and it's just that's kind of weird to me.
Well, this wasn't free with ads.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I don't know why I'm dancing around. It was Apple.
Yeah.
I just don't rent.
Right, it wasn't.
I just don't rent a lot on Apple.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just kind of. But I was so curious because the few reviews I found about it were extremely positive.
Yeah.
They were raving, and the Wikipedia was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to, you do the thing where you scroll past the breakdown
The
really
spoilers
fast and try to avoid it.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, the final sales point was Arthur Penn.
Yeah.
Arthur Penn, legendary director, and I believe father of Sean Penn and Chris Penn.
I believe that is correct, actually, yes.
So, incredible director. And of course, I know him most of all from
Bonnie and Clyde.
You really don't know?
Penn and Teller Get Killed.
Yes, he directed Penn and Teller Get Killed. Talk about another movie hard to find and watch.
Which you still have a VHS of, by the way.
I do?
Mm-hmm. I found it recently.
I mean, I remember getting that for my birthday one year. Yeah. So, anyway, Penn and Teller Get Killed, which, by the way, one of the greatest taglines of all time. It just says Penn and Teller Get Killed, and it's got Penn and Teller on it like this, and then the tagline just says, what more do you want? Great tagline. But anyway, talk about, they shouldn't call it Penn and Teller Get Killed. They should call it like Jokes You Don't Get, the movie.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's like a movie full of jokes that most people don't get. They're just like, it's like Elbow Bump the movie. Is
that the only feature film that they had with their names in it?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
I mean, they did TV specials and things like that, but never another movie.
I didn't think so.
But so with Arthur Penn's pedigree being as it is, that was the final straw. So I'm sitting up one night. I want to say I had just finished watching Whiteout.
Okay. That would track. Yeah.
That's the movie in Alaska, or not Alaska, Cape Beckinsale in Antarctica.
Yep.
I had just finished watching that, and that was on some service I already paid for.
Yeah.
So then I was like, you know what? I'm dropping my hard-earned money. I'm renting Dead of Night.
Winter.
And Dead of Winter. Gosh, Dead of Night's great too.
Both
versions. There's a lot of Dead of Nights out there. Thank you for the correction. But
no worries.
I'm watching Dead of Winter, and I put it on. I had a blast with it.
Yeah.
I remember because about not even 6 or 7 minutes in, I paused it and went and made popcorn because I was like, oh man, like I'm in for a thrill, like a just solid thriller, and nothing makes me happier than just, a really simple yet complicated thriller.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is what you get with Dead of Winter.
No, I absolutely agree. I think what really works for me with Dead of Winter is I'm such a sucker for single location, like isolation.
Oh, I thought that's all you were going to say. I was going to agree.
Such a sucker.
Correct.
Single location, isolation, that shit really gets to me. We've had this conversation before because like that's one of the things that I
Because
love.
that time I isolated you and kept you in one location.
Clearly, yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I loved about Midnight Mass is like a seaside town, just like an isolated from everybody. But then you add snow into that, and then you add it being in a rich estate. Like
so now it's just Storm of the Century.
Yeah, just Storm of the Century. Yeah, there we go. Another good one though.
No, but I mean, like you were like it's like Midnight Mass, but it's on an island with snow. So Storm of the Century.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
No, but it's the Storm of the Century is great.
Oh, fantastic.
No, you got to remember, I'm the guy. who not only do I vacation in northern Michigan
Yeah.
in the winter,
Yeah.
which everybody else thinks I'm crazy.
I don't.
Have you been to northern? Well, you have because you have some family up
Yeah.
there, but it's snowy.
Oh, it's very snowy, but I just love being not bothered and being able to watch movies in a snowy cabin. That's kind of nice.
I got a snowy cabin, and during the day I had to write, and at night I could do whatever I wanted, and
Yeah.
there was no internet. So I brought stacks of DVDs.
Yes, you did.
And at least half of them were snow movies, and I actually had never seen Storm of the Century from start to finish.
Oh, wow.
But I had a DVD set of
Yeah.
it. So I watched the whole thing, and we're talking, for people who, like Michigan, we're talking I'm staying here. Like tip of the mitten is what they call it.
Yeah.
So not the Upper Peninsula. And literally they would be like, it may snow Thursday. And then you wake up Monday and you're like, it's snowing. And then you go about your stuff. And then you wake up Tuesday, you're like, it's snowing. And then you wake up Wednesday, you're like, hey, it's kind of snowing.
Yeah.
And then you wake up Thursday, you're like, wow, it's snowing. Like it always snowed.
It always
was so
snowed.
weird
Yeah.
and fun. So I'm going back this January.
I can't blame you.
I'm going to do a little 5-day sabbatical out there.
Hell yeah, you are.
But, and the new place I stay at, very bizarre side note.
Ooh.
It's more rustic. It's a literal log cabin,
Ooh.
but it has high-speed internet.
Hmm.
I tested it while I was there, and it was half as fast as my home internet.
Oh my God.
And my home internet's crazy fast.
Yes, it is.
So
Yes,
I was doing podcast bonus episodes and watching all of my streaming shows that I was behind on the entire time I was there. So I liked the one place because it was isolated, but it was just a house in a rural community.
Oh, nice.
This place was that's the other great thing about staying in Michigan, northern Michigan,
Yeah.
throughout the winter months. If you want a vacation there, the whole state's on sale.
Damn.
I mean, basically, because where I was staying with my cabin, it was under $50 a night.
That's awesome.
And only 2 cabins could be open because the others are too big to heat.
Yeah.
So I'm in this cabin. The guy's thrilled to see me because he's like, oh, thank goodness, thanks for renting it.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants it. The town that they're in, the traffic lights were shut off.
Oh my gosh.
They just weren't on anymore.
Yeah.
There was one corner store.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went in there, I was like, hey, I'm looking for milk. And he went, you're going to have to go somewhere else.
Didn't they have liquor and canned goods or something?
Hell yeah, they
I was gonna
did.
say,
and they
yeah.
had signs that say recommended together.
Yeah.
No. Bottle
There
of
we
vodka, can of beans.
Well, there we go.
You're set. We call it a Russian holiday.
Oh my God.
But no, so anyway, I digress on
Yeah.
that. But so Dead of Winter, numero uno, gives that winter vibe massively. I mean, in spades.
Yeah.
And the reason I love winter, for the record, is snow is beautiful.
Yes.
Snow is, fascinating to watch. It
Mhm.
sets a scene. It makes you immediately imagine a time of year.
Yep.
But you'll look at snow and be like, oh, it's so pretty. But if there's a lot, you go, oh, crap.
Oh, crap.
I can't get out of here.
No, I mean, let's not forget the time that you literally called me and were like, hey, you're getting ready to get a big snowstorm here. I am too. Why don't you come down here, get snowed in with me for the weekend, and we'll just hang out and watch movies all weekend.
That was dope.
That was a genius
So
move.
this was back when, you were living alone.
Yeah, this was...
You had, you worked, you didn't work the weekends really.
Yeah.
And at least not in the winter.
No.
And yeah, literally, there was a severe snow warning.
Yep.
Starting Friday night at 8 p.m. So you drove your butt down to where I
Where
am
the snowstorm was starting.
at 7.
Yes.
And we were sliding around the road
Yep.
to get a pizza.
Get a pizza, get some snacks, and also then we had to dig out my car. No, we had to dig out Rachel's car the next day.
Yes, we did.
I remember that now.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, and we were all just hauled up in my
It was
house,
so awesome.
and I cooked.
Yep.
And we must have taken in 8 or 9 movies.
I know
we watched a lot of.
I know we
movies.
watched Braven, the one with Jason Momoa, and I think that was the night you showed me Session 9.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe you'd never seen that.
Bought that Blu-ray on a blind buy and freaking love that movie.
That
might be a future episode. Session 9 is fantastic.
That was a movie I watched for the first time when I first moved to New Jersey. I watched it on my laptop. I didn't even have a television.
Jeez.
I rented it at Video Val's, rest in peace, in Butler, or in, where was that? Was that in, I know nobody cares if it was in Pompton Lakes or Butler, but I care. Bloomingdale. It was in Bloomingdale, New Jersey. Rest in peace, Video Val's. So anyway.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about Dead of Winter, Dav.
All right, so I'm going to change things up this week. Let's go ahead and start with the synopsis on this before we get to who's behind this. So, the Scream
Please,
Factory...
no, David.
Too late.
Ah.
Scream Factory Blu-ray synopsis reads as, when struggling actress Katie is offered the opportunity to replace an actress who has suffered an emotional breakdown during a film shoot, she jumps at the chance for a role of a lifetime. Arriving at the filming location, an isolated mansion in upstate New York, and getting to know her two mysterious benefactors, Dr. Lewis and Mr. Murray, she begins to suspect there's more to the story, but she can't quite put her finger on it. As the pieces fall into place and the weather outside turns frightful, Katie's quest for stardom becomes a fight for survival in this twisty thriller from the director of Bonnie and Clyde.
I think that's a pretty solid description. Long, but
My synopsis.
but it's meant to fill the back of the Blu-ray.
Back of the Blu-ray, yeah.
So, no, I think that's a pretty good one.
My synopsis, an actress ventures to an isolated mansion to land the role of a lifetime, but comes to find out the fame may just cost her life.
That wasn't that good.
Shut up. All right. So the director is Arthur Penn, as Enrique mentioned previously. This man is a producer, director. He started producing and directing in 1952 with the Golf Playhouse, Goodyear Playhouse in 1955, Mickey 1 in 65, Penn and Teller Get Killed in 89. He was full-on director, of course, for Bonnie and Clyde in 1967, Alice's Restaurant in 1969.
I love that one. I just revisited the song the other day because it was not long ago. It was Thanksgiving, and I was really enjoying it.
Little Big Man in 1970, Night Moves, one of Gene Hackman's best thrillers in 1975.
Oh, that's a really good
Really solid flick. Target in 1985, The Portrait in 1993, and a film called Inside in 1996. Our writer on this one, we technically have 3 writers on Dead of Winter, starting with Anthony Gilbert.
Wait, technically have 3 writers.
Technically.
I suspect something went horribly wrong.
Let's find out, shall we? So our first writer is Anthony Gilbert, who is actually a pseudonym for Lucy Beatrix Mousen. She was a mystery writer who wrote under that name of Anthony Gilbert like over 60 detective novels using a guy that was by the name of, I believe, what was his detective name? It was Arthur Crook. So
Wait,
Arthur,
over 50 detective novels.
Yeah.
So was this based on a novel that they wrote?
So this was originally based on a novel entitled The Woman in Red, and that was made into a movie in 1945 called My Name is Julia Ross. Now, the synopsis for My Name is Julia Ross I do have pulled up here, and the idea is based, like I said, off The Woman in Red, and this says, during the 1940s, 23-year-old Julia Ross is employed without money, living in a cheap boarding house. She's also recovering from being... unemployed, yes. Sorry.
We've all been employed without money as well, so...
She's also recovering from being spurned by her lover. Desperate, she accepts an unpromising job as a secretary to an odd red-clad lady she meets in a gloomy house in Mayfair, attended by sinister servants, and asked as a condition of the job that she has no ties. The long-orphaned Julia says she has not. In fact, she is not entirely true, as she is befriended by a young man, Colin, who has met in the Lion's Tea Shop, although he has told her of her fiancé in Ireland. Basically, what happens is once she gets into the house, they tell her that or she wakes up the next day in a different house, and now she's also married to that guy that she just met the day before.
So it's more about that psychological aspect of like the serious gaslighting.
Yeah.
Okay, because I feel like they only touched on that in Dead of Winter.
They called Dead of Winter a loose adaptation of The Woman in Red, aka My Name is Julia Ross, and then the movie of the same of My Name is Julia Ross in 1945. It is essentially the same thing where a woman goes to get a job, she wakes up the next day in a completely different house, and people are like, "You're this woman now," and that the whole psychological thing starts over again. So that movie came out in 45, and the Dead of Winter was adapted loosely in 87.
Okay, I that I actually did not know, because I did do a little dive into this when I first watched it.
Yeah,
I know that it had a very troubled early production.
Yeah, it did. So Anthony Gilbert, going back to Lucy Beatrix Mousen real quick, also did work for Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So Anthony Gilbert is a name, but the actual name attached to it of Lucy is not one that people know. Our second writer on this is Mark Malone, who did Signs of Life in 1989, Bulletproof Heart in 94, Hoods in 98, Dead Heat, no, not that Dead Heat, in 2002. Also currently was writing back in 2015 on The Last Ship. And then the last writer we have credited is Mark Schmuger, who was the producer of Dead of Winter in 87 as well. He also went on to produce Spectacular Now in 2013, was a part of Lucy in 2014, 0 Days, and even The Circle in 2017. Mark Schmuger was originally also the director attached before Penn, but unfortunately what happened was he was on set for about a day or two, and he was a classmate and friend of Arthur's son, Matthew Penn. He began to direct, but soon after ran into difficulties. Producer of the film, John Bloomgarden, took over as the interim director, and then Penn reluctantly agreed a couple days later to come back on.
Yeah, from what I understood, he basically put his reputation out there to get this job going.
Yeah.
So when it was all falling apart, he just was like, put on his pants and showed up.
Yeah.
That's how I am when I'm forced to direct. I just put on my pants and I show up and I'm just like, fine.
And our last name that I'll bring to the table is the cinematographer Jan Weinke. They did additional camera on Six Kids and a Honeymoon in 1967. They went on to do photography stills for Les Miserables in 1998. Full cinematographer career didn't start until 77, though, with a film called Clark. They did A Dance à Bourbonville in 1979, Tree of Knowledge in 81, Weeds, a Nick Nolte film in 87, Hello Again in 87, Penn and Teller Get Killed.
Okay,
in
so
89.
It was a friend of Penn at that point. Arthur Penn.
Arthur Penn, yeah. Black Harvest in 93, Inside, the other Arthur Penn movie in 96, and some film called Shredded in 2000. From what I could tell, they work on largely Danish productions. That was what their resume consisted of.
So only productions with good pastry.
With good pastry. I
Got
knew
it.
you were going to say
What?
that.
It's the truth.
So now that we've done our cast, or now we've done our crew, let's go into our cast. We have 3 big players in this one, starting with Mary Steenburgen.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
It's really kind of 5.
Yeah, it is kind of 5. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Because we need to say something real quick, okay?
Watch out, guys. It's a hot take.
Mary Steenburgen plays 3. Count them. 3 characters.
Yes.
And my God, is she good.
She's fantastic.
She is so good. She's literally... we start the show with a spoiler, but
spoiler alert.
But she's literally playing 3 different women that the one thing they have in common is they all happen to look alike somewhat.
Yeah.
And they make her, it's a combination of styling and her unrelenting ability that makes me believe she's 3 different people.
Absolutely.
And I just can't oversell Mary Steenburgen. I do not know that this film would work without her level of ability.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I'm curious also to check out My Name is Julia Ross, because I'm curious if they even play on the fact of multiple personality with her taking the role of somebody else. And I doubt they do, honestly.
I couldn't tell you.
So
I'm curious.
Steenburgen, 117 credits on IMDb, by the way, starting with Going South in 1978, the Jack Nicholson film. One of my personal favorites that I just recently discovered. Oh, God, it's been probably about 2-3 years ago. Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell and David Warner, where McDowell plays H.G. Wells going after Jack the Ripper in a time machine.
Oh my God.
Dude, it's insane. Ragtime in 1981, Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy in 82.
I love Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy.
I know you do. One Magic Christmas in 1985.
A feel-good movie I recommend we watch as soon as we're done here today.
Parenthood in 1989. Back to the
For
Future.
those who don't know.
Oh God, you're going to talk about it.
One Magic Christmas. That's the film to watch if you want to enjoy yourself this holiday season.
Jesus.
Beautiful family. All dead.
Disney. You should mention it's also a Disney.
Disney. Are you kidding me? Wow. I was about to say Disney is about as good at killing parents as, and then I realized any joke I could think of is too spicy. Let's move on.
Moving on. Parenthood, 1989. Back to the Future Part 3 in 1990, What's Eating Gilbert Grape in 93, Philadelphia in 93, Nixon in 95, I Am Sam 2001, Elf 2003, The Brave One 2007, Step Brothers 2008, The Proposal 2009, The Help 2011, Walk in the Woods 2015, Justified 2015, Orange is the New Black 2015, Book Club.
She was on Orange is the New Black.
Book Club 2018 and Book Club 2, The Next Chapter in 2023. Steenburgen, I mean, we will get into it as we get into the movie, of course, but yeah, she definitely 100% makes this movie.
Yeah, no, that was the thing I came out with the most when I finished watching it for the first time was I could not believe her performance. It was so good. It was so stunningly good.
So she plays Julia Rose, Katie McGovern, and Evelyn in this. Moving down the list, we have Mr. Roddy McDowall, who plays Mr. Murray. 269 credits on IMDb, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah. Starting with I See Ice in 1938. He also did Dead Man's Shoes in 1940, The Pied Piper in 42, Killer Shark 1950, appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show in 55, Goodyear Playhouse in 1956, which is probably where he met Arthur Penn.
Or it could be that he was like really famous.
That too.
Well, no, I mean, at this point, he was heading into the twilight of his career after having an immense amount of success from Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
He was the one consistency in all of the original Planet of the Apes because they always shelled out the cash for Roddy McDowall to return. And then, of course, Fright Night came along and kind of gave him a little resurgence, but he was always into working.
Yeah.
And giving Steenburgen a lot of credit, Roddy McDowall's performance is excellent, but you would expect nothing less from him. Unlike somebody like Mary Steenburgen, Roddy McDowall being a character actor of a certain age, I don't think you've ever seen him and not known he was good.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is like Mary Steenburgen, some of the films she's done, not her fault, her characters, especially when she was younger, were just lighthearted, fun, goofy roles. So you might not know that she could like blow your mind pretending to be three different people.
Absolutely.
And when I say pretending, I mean as well as acting, because there are points in the film where she's acting like she's pretending to be somebody else.
Also true.
She's acting like she's an actress acting like somebody else.
Jeez.
It's so good. But my point is, Roddy McDowall, he plays this role, which is basically like a henchman.
Yeah.
But he's a mentally distraught, sad, depressed, miserable henchman who is being controlled by his therapist.
Yes.
And there are moments when he does terrible things in the movie and he has such empathy. Like I feel so bad for him.
Yeah. No, but he the way he delivers certain scenes, it's just you can't help but feel bad for him, but at the same time when you see the acts that he's doing and the aftermath and everything, it's just like, I have such mixed feelings about you right now.
I don't know. I think he's a good guy. I like him.
No, I mean, yeah, you know.
Hey, he's dedicated, all right? Every time I tell you to drug people, you're just like, I don't know, it's probably illegal. I can't stand you.
Oh, God. So our other third player in this is Jan Rubes. He plays Dr. Joseph Lewis. 106 credits for this gentleman, starting with Forbidden Journey in 1950. He did Lassie in 72, The Amateur in 81, One Magic Christmas in 1985.
Yeah, you mentioned he plays Santa in
Yes,
that.
he does.
Yeah,
he was also in Witness with Harrison Ford in 85.
I love Witness.
Amityville Curse in 1990.
That was him.
Class Action 91, Deceive 91, Maniac Mansion TV show 93, Birds 2, Land's End in 94, D2, Mighty Ducks 2 in 94.
Now we're cooking.
X-Files 96, ER 97, Outer Limits 99, Snow Falling on Cedars in 99 as well. One of his last performances was Tilt in 2005. He unfortunately left us in 2009, and I believe Roddy left us. Oh, God, it was a little earlier than
How do you not know when Roddy McDowall passed away?
I don't know.
That's
1998.
Yeah, no, he passed. Well, I guess he wasn't super young, but I feel like it was too soon.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was. I actually remember his passing because my parents were watching Entertainment Tonight and they'd come on about it, and I remembered recognizing him from Overboard because he plays the butler in Overboard. That's how I knew Roddy McDowall. What do you want? I was 6. I'm not going to keep going. Why are you looking at me like that? How long are you going to keep this up?
Oh, well, now I'm going to keep doing it. I was going to stop.
All right. Are you ready to get into this amazing film, sir?
Sure.
All right. So Dead of Winter opens with a beautiful wide shot of a parking lot. Snow is falling down, and it's New Year's Eve. We're in an empty lot, and we see a woman leave her car. She goes inside. Is it a train station or a bus depot?
It looked to me like a bus station.
Like a bus station, yeah. So she goes inside the bus station. There's a couple kids and a mother in there that have New Year's garb on, and she goes to get a locker, opens it up, pulls a key out of that locker, and then goes to another locker and retrieves a satchel full of cash.
Very, very cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
Unlock a box, take a key out of the box, unlock a different box.
Pull some cash.
And it's a mess of cash.
Yeah, it is a mess of cash. So she goes back to her car. She gets out, or she gets in and starts driving, and she gets stopped by a cop. They're doing like a checkpoint, just making sure everything's okay. Checks her out, waves her through, and that's when we notice.
You mean they're just violating everybody's constitutional rights for the fuck of it?
That's exactly right.
Pardon me.
So she drives through, and we notice that there may or may not be a car following her as well.
Yeah, and it's played with like super tight tension.
Yeah.
This whole movie is an exercise in tension.
No, it absolutely is. So she keeps driving a bit, goes into another parking lot, gets out and goes to a payphone. She calls somebody and states that she's going to wait a few more minutes, and then she's gone. She gets back into her car, lights a cigarette, and then all of a sudden some guy pops up from the back, begins to strangle her, kills her, and then what does he do next, Henrik? He removes her ring finger off her left hand.
Yes, he cuts that. Oof.
That was the opening scene. That,
Yeah.
I immediately I was like, all right, put it in the remote down. We'll see what this is for a little bit.
No, it's a very startling, gruesome, and very Hitchcock-esque moment. And that's the big thing in this movie is it does feel a lot like it wants to be a Hitchcock thriller.
No, it absolutely does.
And I think in a lot of ways it succeeds. I think in a lot of ways I like it more than a Hitchcock thriller because it was a little bit more modern. It didn't feel old-fashioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's maybe a product of the 80s, but it doesn't feel old-fashioned.
Not dated at all.
Actually, I mean, aside from a few scenes with phones,
technology.
Once they're like in the mansion in
You
the
couldn't
snow,
tell.
it's like, oh, just eccentric old people live here. I guess that's why they don't have any computers.
So now we meet Katie, who is played by Steenburgen, and her boyfriend, Rob, who is played by William Russ. They're in their tiny little apartment that's a bit cramped with Ling. They see, they've got posters on the wall, and she's trying to find her headshot and panicking, and she's got an audition the next 45 minutes. Snow's coming outside, and her brother is staying with them as well.
Yeah, and her brother, I mean, she calls him her baby brother, but he's like in his like mid-20s.
Yeah, his name's Roland in the film. It's played by Mark Malone. And so she is yelling at Rob because she needs her headshot. And Rob, mind you, is also in a cast. And he has his leg casted.
He has a broken leg.
He's down on his luck, and he's trying to drink coffee, and he's complaining about the coffee and telling her he forgot to print the headshot. She's panicking because she has to get this audition. So she goes to the audition, and that's where we meet Mr. Murray, who is played by Roddy McDowall. And she walks in. He's sitting at the table, and he's like, yeah, welcome. And then he looks up and immediately pauses and is like, okay, say something, like say some lines.
Yeah, he has her talk. He has her lift her hair up. Because remember, kids, Mary Steenburgen just got murdered at the beginning of the movie, but now this character is also Mary Steenburgen. Their hairstyles are massively different. And I'm not saying I know how they did it because I don't.
Yeah.
But they did a lot to adjust the shaping of her eyes.
Yeah.
And usually the way that's accomplished is by placing tape behind the scalp and the hair so you can pull skin in different spots. And I just noticed that Steenburgen, the actress character that she plays, didn't have those like big luscious eyes that the character at the beginning did.
Absolutely.
And when they later on, when they start to style her to look more like the dead woman, that's one of the things that happens is her eyes get a lot more pronounced and kind of large. She's actually, as the actress character, she's actually kind of plain.
Yeah.
She's kind of, I mean, she has like super big, like over permed hair that's like super like big and hefty and all that, but otherwise she's just kind of plain Jane. She's not really that exciting to look at,
Well, we should also mention too that with the opening of Julie's murder, that they kind of hide Steenburgen a little bit. Like they shoot her from the back, and you only catch glimpses of her in the rear view.
Oh no, they show her pretty straight on, dude.
Do they?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they show her straight on.
Okay, I thought they mainly showed her from the back.
No, she's just wearing a hat and stuff.
Gotcha.
I mean, and everything's in shadows and stuff because it's all cloak and dagger. It's all super Hitchcocky.
So Mr. Murray tells her that she's got the job. We next see that they're at lunch, and he tells her that the production is needing a new lead because she had it out with the director and she left. And he tells her that they needed to go up to, they take her to upstate New York. They're going to shoot a video, little scene with her, send it off to the director. And for her doing that, she's going to get $3,000. If she gets the job, another $9,000 added on top of that.
Yeah, basically he tells her that the production is that they're trying to film as much as they can without their lead actress.
Yeah.
But that any day now they're going to run out of things to shoot, and once the production shuts down, they lose an immense amount of money.
Yeah.
So they need to take her tomorrow to upstate New York to a producer's mansion.
Yep.
Videotape an audition, send it to the director, and then hopefully immediately the director will say yes, and then she'll be sent straight up there.
Yep.
So the idea is that this is all going to move incredibly fast because it has to. And he even provides newspaper clippings about an indie production in trouble and an actress fleeing a set. So it all looks very legitimate. And McDowall comes off so confident, like he's legit. Yeah,
he absolutely does. And I think also too, what sells it is that they state that like we want to keep the footage that we've shot with her. We just need to have somebody match that footage to go along with it. So we'll shoot the new footage of you that we can match with the footage of Julie. And I'm like, well, yeah, I would believe that too.
I mean, it's a stretch hoping you would cast a woman that looks exactly like her, but hey, if you're desperate, you're desperate.
So she returns to her apartment. She tells Rob, who is annoying her, just snapping pictures on his camera the whole time. And he's like, if you want to go, just go ahead and go. So Katie, who's frustrated, leaves, and Rob goes to the window with his camera. He takes a couple pictures of Roddy McDowall's car as well as Mr. Murray, watches her drive off, and then Mr. Murray picks her up. They begin to drive upstate. They're driving on the freeway for a couple hours. They stop at a gas station. He hands the guy some money, and he's like, all right, I'll be right back. He comes back and hands the guy a bag that has 2 goldfish in it because if you spend $10, you get free goldfish.
And you know what? In upstate New York, that's not even the weirdest thing that could happen to you in the winter.
Yeah, I bet not. Actually, I would almost guarantee that.
Goldfish in the winter.
So they arrive then at the mansion, and this mansion is incredible. We meet Dr. Joseph Lewis, and the mansion's decked out with art, sculptures. It's got an auto piano that plays itself, which is pretty awesome.
A player piano.
That is attached to something that we'll get to later.
And most importantly,
yes,
animal skins. Because this doctor has traveled the world, and he has 2 polar bears. And I think that that's important.
Yeah.
Because polar bears are very dangerous to humans, and they require an immense amount of skill, patience, yada, yada. And I think that's foreshadowing.
Yeah. And also his admiring of chess, too. Because chess
that's a total foreshadow.
Movie. So she goes to ask if she can use the phone. She goes to the phone, tells them there's no dial tone, and he's like, really? And he's like, oh, well, it must have been the storm that's knocked out the lines. If it's still out tomorrow, I'll have Mr. Murray drive you into town, and you can call wherever you need. So everything's on the up and up.
Oh, he also references the watch out for mice. You might step on mice, but there are traps all over, which again, foreshadowing.
Yes.
There's so much foreshadowing in this film.
So the next scene, we see Dr. Lewis is sitting down with Katie. He's showing her pictures of Julia Rose and comments that she could be her sister, and tells her how Julie had a nervous breakdown. She'll never be the same again, and that he's going to give her these lines. They're going to film the scene tomorrow, and then if everything goes well, they'll drop the tape off, and they can hopefully shoot with the director the moment that he's back or comes to the mansion, basically.
And one thing that's important to point out is the doctor and Roddy McDowall's character are at this juncture extremely confident she will get the role, which is highly encouraging to her. They're both like, no, this is great. Like, we're going to shoot the video and do everything we can to convince the director you're the replacement.
Yeah.
But we think you can be. We're amazed how uncannily you look like her. And in very, very soon, almost immediately, they're going to cut her hair.
Yes.
They're going to do her makeup, which is the other part that makes me kind of sad for Roddy McDowall's character, is he has to like learn how to cut women's hair and do makeup and stuff. Why? Because he's completely subservient to this doctor. Who, by the way, it is so clear the moment he introduces himself as like a former psychiatrist that McDowall's one of his patients.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, and let's also not forget that he's bound to a wheelchair, basically.
Yes, he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he kind of references that he makes jokes about it a lot, like that he likes being pushed around.
Yeah.
And he likes machines. They take some getting used to.
Yes, they take some getting used to. So Mr. Murray gives Katie the scenes, and she finds out that they're shooting a scene for a thriller, and they're going to start shooting this tomorrow for her audition tape. So she gets ready for bed, and she puts her headshot of Julie on the mirror, and she's practicing the look in the mirror. There's a knock at the door, and Mr. Murray brings her a glass of warm milk and tells her that Dr. Lewis really likes her. He doesn't like everyone, but he likes her. And Katie replies back that she likes him and also thinks that Dr. Lewis likes Mr. Murray as well. And Mr. Murray kind of lights up.
Oh my God, that's one of those moments that really makes Roddy McDowall phenomenal in this role. Is he literally like lights up like, you think so? It's like, dude, you live in a house with him.
Yeah.
But he so badly wants this guy to like him.
Yeah.
Because he's deeply damaged. I mean, like, I don't know how else to put it.
And then in the next scene is we see that Dr. Lewis is downstairs, like, giving him some crap about a knife that's too dull. And so he has him sharpen it. He watches him sharpen it in the thing. And then he's slicing onions with it, commenting on how, what is it? He says a dull blade doesn't get anything done or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's something along those lines.
Yeah. So then the next morning, we see Katie and Mr. Murray are in the car. The car won't start. The storm's still coming down. The lines are still down. So then they decide that they're going to go ahead and go with the audition. Murray prepares Katie. He cuts her hair. He starts styling her, and she's going over the lines. And Katie asks him, how did he and Dr. Lewis meet? Murray tells her professionally because he was a patient.
Big shocker.
That's when she says, a patient of what? And that's when he tells her that Dr. Lewis is a psychologist.
Shocking.
This can only go well at this point, right?
Shocker.
So next, they film her audition. At first, she has a little bit of a stillness, and then they go a second time. And then both of them with her watch the playback and are very impressed. They do a little applauding after she does it. It's super cute. And we next see that Murray is in the car. He's driving away from the estate. Everything seems to be fine. And he goes to another estate and drops the tape into a mailbox, into the door.
In a house that does not appear to be very far away either.
No, not very far away at all. And we see a woman in the second floor smoking a cigarette. We then go inside the house as she picks up the tape and she ashes on her own floor. Did you see that?
Well, when you're rich, I mean, you do what you want.
She literally ashes on her own floor, and she picks up the tape, and that's when she sees the audition, and we find out that the audition is completely her reciting lines of what happened to her in this thriller, but she's describing what happened to the woman in the opening scene.
Yes, what we find out is that it is very clear that this audition is a tape that proves to this woman that her sister was not successfully murdered.
Yes.
She's still alive. She has information that she desperately wants, and that this is a big F you.
Yeah. Well, and that's sealed the deal because Lewis then comes on screen and tells her, hello, Evelyn. She's still alive, as you can see, and the game continues. We'll contact you at a later date. And then the tape goes to fuzzy.
Goes to fuzzy?
Goes to white noise. My apologies.
Goes to fuzzy.
Goes to fuzzy.
Static?
Static your face.
Ouch.
So then the next morning we see Katie downstairs. She's calling to Dr. Lewis. She finds the estate empty, but outside we see Mr. Murray is doing snow blowing and Lewis is watching him. Katie begins going through Dr. Lewis's office, and that's when she knocks down a folder and discovers pictures of a dead Julie.
She finds Polaroids.
Yeah, Polaroids.
Of a dead body. And something I really like that they did with the dead body in this, they used a dummy.
Oh, yeah.
And I know what you're thinking, like, well, doesn't that look phony? Yeah, but it's a dummy that they've made to look just like her.
Yeah.
It looks creepy.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does.
Because it's literally lifeless.
Yeah.
It looks like somebody just like recklessly preserved this woman.
Yeah.
And I find every time we look at that corpse very creepy.
No, it absolutely is. And we don't have any shortcomings of seeing that corpse multiple times through this movie.
Shortcomings.
I don't know what you want.
English.
So she finds the Polaroid. She goes to confront Dr. Lewis, and she's like, why did you lie to me? What is this? And that's when Lewis tells her that it was a tragedy, that unfortunately Julie had a breakdown and committed suicide at this point.
So now the plot is thickening more and more. And every time she digs a little bit about this actress she's replacing, it gets more and more insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at first it's, oh, she got mad at the director. Then it's, oh, she's had a nervous breakdown and will never be able to act again because she's like gone so far off her rocker.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and she killed herself.
Yep.
Boy, howdy, do things escalate quickly.
Very quickly. The pacing of this film is really what works. One of the many things that works for it. Absolutely. So she questions, is there anything else they've been holding back? And Lewis tells her that it was a tragedy, but they have no further secrets. Back at the apartment, we now see that Rob tries to call out because naturally Katie hasn't called him in several days now. He sees the phone lines are disconnected, so he calls the operator, and he's like, I've got this number. Can you dial it for me? She's like, what's the number? And he starts with 311, and that's when the operator tells him there is no 311 area code.
Ah, the old fake area code.
So immediately he's distraught by this. Later that night, we see Mr. Murray and Dr. Lewis playing chess, but Dr. Lewis is doing so without looking at the board, and she even questions
he's
how
doing
he can
calisthenics.
Do it. Yeah, she even questions.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the room doing calisthenics, doing weightlifting and stuff.
Yeah.
And she asks him about, like, why don't you need to look at it? And he's just like, I don't have to because I know the board.
Yeah, I know the board. I have good memory.
Hoity-toity.
So then the player piano starts on. Katie questions how it is, and Lewis tells her that it's a device that's connected to his heart, and is it when his heart rate gets high?
When his heart rate is elevated the piano plays to relax him.
To relax him, so that will trigger it. Katie then sees a pop from the fireplace, and she goes over with a poker and starts nosing around and sees that her ID is roasting, melting away on top of one of the logs.
Yep, her New York State driver's license. Adios, muchachos.
So she tries to retrieve it from the fireplace. She can't. So then she just kind of plays it off and returns to her room. She empties her purse onto her bed and finds now that all her IDs are missing along with her credit cards. They have erased her.
Anything with a name on it is not in her wallet anymore.
Yeah. So she starts freaking out. She returns downstairs and goes to the phone again, notices there's still no dial tone. So then she starts pulling at the cord. And she's pulling at the cord in the corner, and Dr. Lewis is kind of noticing that something's up at this point, so he motions Mr. Murray over, and that's when she pulls the cord up and sees that it's been cut. So there's no dial tone because the phone has literally been made useless at this point.
Yes, that is what happens when the cord is cut in the old days.
In the
olden days, back when, cords were a part of phones.
Yeah.
And, I don't have another joke. I thought I'd come up with something, but I'm just a little tired today.
So Mr. Murray is called over by Dr. Lewis, and he goes over, and she tells him that she's going to have a nap before dinner, and he's like, I think you should. You look a little pale. So later, we see her sneak back downstairs again as Mr. Murray cooks for Lewis. He's having him sample some sauce he's making. Katie then decides to go right through the front door without her coat, and she starts making a trek in the snowstorm up this giant hill, and she's pulling on branches because she can't get her footing, and she keeps climbing, and suddenly she reaches the top, and then Mr. Murray steps up and he's like, Dr. Lewis has been looking for you. And he looks the absolute creepiest in the shot, like I told you.
Well, he's just in a button-up jacket with a very simple furry hat on top of his head to stay warm. And he looks so sincere when he's just like, Dr. Lewis has been looking for you.
Dr. Lewis is looking for you. So back inside, Katie now questions their intentions, like brings up that her IDs and her credit cards are missing. And Lewis is like, oh, we haven't done anything like that. You're just imagining that.
Maybe you just left them at home.
Maybe
you left in a hurry.
Yeah. And he also adds about the cut phone cord. And he's like, there's no such phone in the kitchen. Like, that cord's not cut. So Lewis still denies, stating that he's pushed her too hard. Murray offers her something warm to drink. And that's when she starts to get her head hurting a little bit. And also we see that Roddy McDowall is just kind of zoomed in on her in this shot.
Yeah, so she's clearly been drugged. And I also want to point out, this is the beginning of some very intense gaslighting.
Yeah.
But it's almost stupid gaslighting.
Yeah.
Because they just mutilate her and they go like, did you have a finger when you went to sleep?
Yeah.
It's very, very strange.
So Katie begins to realize she's been drugged. She gets up and is questioning what's going on from her. What do they want from her? She has no money or anything. And Lewis still denies that there's nothing wrong and that everything's okay. But with her actions, she's been disqualified from the job, telling her that they'll take her home in the morning. And she's like, home? And he's like, well, you want to go home, don't you? So then she goes up to her room and she just crashes on the bed, but not before barricading the door. So even Dr. Lewis comments, he's like, well, if you don't want to be bothered, you should use the bolt on your door. So she bolts her door, pushes a case in front of it, and then just ends up crashing on the bed.
Because she's drugged.
Yeah. So meanwhile, downstairs, Lewis tells Murray not to worry. He's going to do a perfect job. And Mr. Murray is like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you have to. You have to do a perfect job. What is he talking about exactly? We then see Mr. Murray get up carrying a medical tray, and he goes into her room, except he doesn't come in the normal way. We see him standing behind a mirror smoking as the mirror opens up in her bedroom, and he walks through a secret passageway into the room.
Yeah, the stand-up mirror in there is actually a two-way mirror.
Yeah.
Or a one-way mirror.
Yeah, one way.
That's what I always get those confused.
Yeah.
It's a one-way mirror and a door.
Yeah.
So he walks in.
Smoking a cigarette, mind you.
Smoking a cigarette. Well, it's the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody by law, you had to have a lit cigarette in your hand. And he goes in there and just ever so gently and carefully cuts off her finger.
So the next morning, we see Katie is still sleeping, but now the bed has drips of blood on it. She finds herself in a nightgown that she wasn't dressed in when she went to bed, and she pulls out her bandaged hand from the pillow, unwraps it, and finds that her ring finger on her left hand has absolutely been removed.
Yes, it is gone, and it's a shocking moment.
Very shocking moment. So she screams out, alerting them that she's woke up. She finds the barricade undisturbed, and that's when she finds some cigarette ash from Roddy McDowall's cigarette on the floor, and that's when she opens the mirror, steps inside the attic, and makes her way up. And she goes into finding a phone right in the corner.
Well, and this is a big moment, though,
Yes.
because she put two and two together.
Yeah.
Of like, she's not believing the gaslighting. So she's like, somebody got in here.
Yeah.
How could they get in here? Because the door was barricaded.
Yeah.
And then she sees the cigarette ash and is like, it's got to be
Something
this
behind
mirror.
here.
She futzes with it. It opens up. So now she's up in the attic. And I
Yeah.
want to mention, and they reference this a little bit later, but the attic is not heated.
No, it's not.
It's above the where the house is insulated.
Yeah.
So it is very cold. You can see breath while they're up there.
Yep.
And yes, she finds an old black rotary phone
That
just
still has a
right up
dial
there.
tone.
Yep.
So she immediately calls Rob. Rob asks where she is, but Katie can't remember the address. She doesn't know exactly what the address is. She doesn't know anything except landmarks. So she says that they went upstate on the freeway for about 2 hours. There was a covered bridge and a goldfish at a gas station, basically.
And she's also still coming down from the drugs,
Yeah.
and she's in absolute shock.
Absolute panic as well. So Rob tells her to hang up, call the police, and meanwhile, Murray downstairs has found her room is empty, and he also sees that the door is open for the mirror, so he makes his way into the attic. Rob hangs up on her, telling her to call the police, which she does after she tells them that she's in danger, they need to hurry, and she tries to give the best address to them that she can. She pulls back then a sheet that she is by this little sofa and finds Julie's body has been hidden away in the attic. Murray finds her, yanking the phone cord out of the wall, and he just looks pissed at her.
Yes, and again, this is that corpse that is a dummy that makes it creepier.
Yeah.
From the Polaroid pictures is now up there, and there's a little mouse sitting on its
her
face.
Yeah. So back at the apartment, Rob has his cast removed by Roland, and we see that he.
That's a nice way to put it. They break the cast
break the
off of him
cast,
because
yeah.
they're leaving.
They're
They
leaving.
are going to find her.
They're going to find her. So back at the mansion, Dr. Lewis tends to Katie's bandage again. He redresses it, and he tells Katie that Julie was a former patient of his who got involved in a family feud with her sister. So as a radical therapy, he suggested blackmail, which went completely as planned until Evelyn did something they didn't expect, hired an assassin to kill her sister and cut off her finger.
Which to me, that's just, you're not good at playing the game, bruh.
Clearly not.
No, it is very clear that this woman will do anything to win.
Yeah.
That she is playing for keeps, man.
So Mr. Murray was able to intercept her corpse before the authorities did, and once they got it, they noticed the finger removal, which is why they brought Katie here. Katie questions if they're going to kill her, and Dr. Lewis tells her not at all, but Evelyn might.
Yeah. And, they're not wrong. Holy moly.
So as she will pay a great deal for a second chance to kill her, they try to sedate her, but Katie hears a door buzz as she rushes to the door, intercepting the cops that she called. But Dr. Lewis is quick to tell them that she's a patient named Julie. She's having an episode, and he tried to calm her down, but tells them that she went mad last night and chopped off her own finger. While all this is happening, Steenburgen is trying to give every defense that she can that she is being captive and being tortured by these guys.
And at this point, there is no evidence of her identity.
No.
Everything they're saying is the only thing that there's evidence for.
Yeah.
They have the ID of the dead woman.
Yep.
They have photographs of the dead woman.
And her committal papers, too.
And her committal papers. They have but I mean, for the record, how easy would it be to fake committal papers if you're the doctor?
Yeah.
But these cops are also stupid. Actually, they're not. They're kind of dumb.
They're kind of dumb.
I would call them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stupid, because movie cops can go from, obscenely dumb. How far dumb? From a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, drooling on themselves.
Like
stupid.
Halloween 5 dumb?
those are goofy. That's different. It's not like in Halloween 5, which you always love to crap on.
Yeah.
It's not like in Halloween 5, the cops are like standing there looking that way while Michael Myers is stabbing someone to death.
Yeah.
They're just silly.
They're just silly.
No, but
that's
I mean,
why we're
like,
bad cops.
But there are movies where cops are so stupid.
Yeah.
And whether it's that they don't believe something when there's obvious evidence, or they just do the thing where the thing where it's like, oh, this guy just wants attention. Like the dumbest cops ever are like the cops in Friday the 13th Part 6.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Inside.
No, Inside's even dumber.
Yeah.
But Friday the 13th Part 6, it's like
Yeah.
everybody's just like, wait, Jason Voorhees is dead. Wait, now people are dying? Well, it must be the guy who says Jason Voorhees is back killing people to get us to believe
Tommy
him.
Jarvis clearly made
That's
these corpses.
The dumbest. I'm sorry. He's killing people so we'll believe him. Dumbest argument I've ever heard.
It is a dumb argument. I would give these cops. It's either a 6 or a 7 because I don't think they're that bad because we'll get to the ending where they redeem themselves. But yeah, they're. I mean, everything is there if they looked hard enough.
Well, yeah, but they're also getting a lot of information that makes sense.
Yeah,
she's just cut off her finger. She's so there's a fresh wound.
Yeah.
She's got committal papers.
She is acting hysteric.
Yeah, she's acting like a loon because she's been drugged again and again and again. And because, think about it, what makes somebody sound crazier than anything when they're telling you a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense unless you were there the whole time.
That's true.
And on top of that, you're at a doctor's house.
Yeah.
He's clearly rich, which makes you think that he's telling the truth because, how could a crazy guy have all this nice stuff? No, but I mean, so all that stuff is pushing on the cops. But even so, I mean, they check the house.
Yeah.
Well, they check the attic, which is where she says the body is.
Yeah, because she's screaming with them, like, please check the attic. And even Dr. Lewis is like, oh, they don't need to go in the attic. And then one cop is actually like, well, maybe
actually, we
could.
do need to. See, I think they're a 5.
That's a bit redeeming. Yeah.
I think they're a 5 because they do go where she asks them to. But the moment they go up there and don't find anything, that's when they're like, all right, screaming lady, we're just going to take off now. Best of luck.
Well, because Roddy McDowall escorts the cop. So Mr. Murray escorts him to the attic, and that's when he's like, well, it's not heated up here. So they're looking around. They're pulling furniture aside, and clearly the body's been moved. So the cop goes back downstairs. He's like, we didn't find anything. So then Lewis is like, why don't you take her back up to her room? So Mr. Murray takes her back up to her room. He's talking to the cops for a little bit, and that's when he lays her on the bed. She rolls over, and Mr. Murray has put the corpse of Julie in Katie's bed.
And then her reaction, which obviously is to scream and scream and scream because there's a corpse in her bed, just makes her look even more insane to the cops because the cops are sitting there after she's been taken back to her bed, and they just hear her going, ah, ah, ah! So they just kind of look at each other like, all right, let's leave here and go get some coffee.
Well, and also McDowall in the attic points to the cord that was linked out of the phone. He's like, yeah, she did that when she had her episode last night. So everything, everything that they're stacking up, it unfortunately does lead to believe that she's looking crazy.
Chess.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, don't you play chess?
No.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I don't play chess.
I don't either.
I've played chess twice in my life.
I've never played it once because it requires a friend.
That's very true. So the cops decide they're like, this isn't anything. So back in her room, Katie lays on the bed, comes face to face with the body of Julie. She screams, and the cops are like, okay, we're out of here. So then we see Rob and Roland are driving upstate, and they're trying to figure out the location, which good on Roland because he pinpoints the covered bridge because he has found out that there's 5 covered bridges in the area. 2 are way too far away. One's the other side, but there is one that is exactly, I think, like they said, 20 miles away from where they are.
Yeah, basically there's one right by the city and 2 way out.
Yep.
So this one is the most likely one because it's the nearest, so it's the first one they should try.
So we see them drive past the bridge. They're still trying to figure out the location, and back at the mansion, Evelyn has now arrived.
And boy, has she. This is number 3, Mary Steenburgen.
Yes.
And up until this point, she's mostly been obscured.
Yeah.
So now we fully see she is full-blown also performed by Mary Steenburgen. And she is cold.
Cold. Very cold.
And confident.
Yeah.
And just everything Steenburgen's other 2 characters were not.
No, she's got looks that kill when she's Evelyn. Like, Evelyn is somebody that freaking scares me.
David, you're scared of all kinds of things.
Would you stop?
I'll put a list at the end of the show.
That's fair. in the show notes.
Yeah. So
my fears, my work hours.
Yeah, so people can know what they want to do.
Evelyn arrives. She's looking over Katie with Dr. Lewis and Mr. Murray. And of course, she's heavily sedated at this point, which is kind of a cool shot because they have all three of them looking down at her and they're talking slow like this and drawn out because the sedation's kind of wearing off on her. So then that's when Dr. Lewis tells her to go take tells Mr. Murray to take Katie to her room. Evelyn then sits down with Dr. Lewis and they're talking and he's like, I've heard so much about you. And she's like, I'm sure you have. And he offers her sherry, brandy, and she doesn't want anything. He's like, well, I'm going to get myself something. While his back is turned, she goes into her bag and we see that she has an ice pick that she's removed from her bag now.
I love that she specifically brought an ice pick.
Yeah, I know.
That's such a, why not, I guess, but it was just a really interesting choice. Yeah, she's got this ice pick and she is ready to check that mate.
Yeah, she is. So Lewis is asking her, where is it? And Evelyn tells him that it's hidden. She tells him that she does have something for him, though, and tosses him the locker key from the beginning. So clearly the money is what they're after in this point.
Yes. Well, and there's blackmail going on.
Yeah. So she requests a sherry after all, and she pulls the ice pick from her bag. She starts walking up to Dr. Lewis, but she's interrupted as Mr. Murray returns, and that's when we cut to Bob and Roland, who are at the gas station, and all of a sudden the attendant takes their $10 from them. He goes back and comes back with a goldfish, and that's when they realize they're in the town.
They're in the right town. And I also don't forget that she hides that ice pick.
The ice pick really quick.
It's still unknown to the two gentlemen that she has every intent of killing them.
Yeah. So we next see that Roland and Russ are at the police station, and that's when we see that Kate is upstairs and she's trying to figure out how she can escape when she realizes that she just needs to talk to Evelyn. So what she does is she starts messing with the window. She takes a blanket and throws it out. The opening of the window alerts Mr. Murray. He runs upstairs, sees the blanket blow through the wind, and he's like, oh my God, she got out. So now Dr. Lewis and Mr. Murray race out, and that is when Evelyn is downstairs just watching them fumble about, and we see Mr. Murray going after the blanket. By this point now, Katie comes out from behind the mirror where she was hiding. She goes downstairs, and Evelyn watches the two outside. Katie sneaks down the steps. Evelyn, still thinking that she's Julie, calls to her, and that's when she tries to argue that she's not Julie. And Evelyn is not hearing it at this point.
No, Evelyn is like, this is just some stupid mind game, ironically.
And that's literally when she goes that the plot's turn. She takes Katie's hand and sees that the finger's been removed just like she had it done. And that's when she's like, why should I trust you? And Evelyn isn't buying it. She grabs her hand with the missing finger, lunges at her with the ice pick, and that's when we have the two struggle to the ground. And then we see them fall. We see somebody's hand come up and hit a piano key. And then we cut back to the station where Rob and Roland are trying to tell the cops what's going on. And they're like, well, we just went to a mansion this morning. It kind of sounds like what you're talking about. They're showing the pictures from when he picked her up originally that he took of Roddy McDowall's character. And they're like, well, that kind of looks like her, but it's not her. There's no way.
Well, but that's the big moment that makes them really consider it, though, is that they have evidence of what she looks like.
What she looks like.
But it's like, it doesn't quite look like her. But at the same time, you do have a missing person, guys.
So by this point, Dr. Lewis and Mr. Murray return home. They find Evelyn waiting on the stairs, and Evelyn states she can't trust them to get the job done, so she's going to go look upstairs for herself. Mr. Murray chases after her, trying to stop her, and he says that they'll handle the search together, that he can handle her. He continuously searches the house, as does Lewis downstairs, who grabs a fire poker. So now everybody's trying to find out where Katie went. Back upstairs, Mr. Murray continues searching with Evelyn until he realizes that she has the same injury on her hand.
Yep. It is a ruse, an actor.
Thank you. So Katie is as revealed. Katie stabs Murray in the neck with the ice pick, which kills him instantly on the bed.
And it's brutal. He puts his hand up to stop it, so it stabs through his hand and pins his hand to his throat. It's very brutal and so sad, though. His expression as he dies, the sadness in his eyes holds. And it's very sad.
Yeah.
Very, very sad. Such a tragic villain.
It absolutely is. Katie, still posing as Evelyn, then begins to cry. She returns downstairs, calling to Dr. Lewis and telling him that obviously Katie's not in the house anymore and she's going to leave. But suddenly the piano starts up and it catches her off guard. And you can kind of see Dr. Lewis be like,
Well, the piano starting is more important than that, dude.
Yeah.
The piano starting lets her know that he knows.
Yeah, he knows
who she is, because his heart races because he's realized he's found her.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest moments for that character, is because then he goes, I think we found her.
Yeah.
And then what does he do, Dave?
He lunges at her from his chair with the poker and uses the poker to climb the steps and chase after her to the second floor.
He's been misrepresenting how weak he is.
Yeah.
He is clearly not able to walk comfortably.
Yeah.
But he's misrepresented that, which makes sense to make your opponent underestimate you.
Absolutely. So now we get to the point where he finds the body of Mr. Murray on the bed, and he continues shutting doors, shouting to her that there's no way out. And we now see that Katie is back hiding behind the mirror of the secret passageway. He fakes a look into it for a second, acts like he doesn't see anything, but then he swings the poker, smashing the glass. He goes inside the secret passageway. Dr. Lewis makes his way up to the attic and searches, and that's when he starts noticing some things, and he sees a cupboard is closed. He goes in and sees a body, and he starts hitting the body as Julie's body falls out. Behind him, Katie comes out from behind the sofa, starts attacking him, stabs him in the back, and that's when he falls off and falls onto the knife.
Yes. Well, onto the pick, I think. Or no, it was a knife.
I think it was,
no, it was a knife. You're right.
But before he falls to the knife, he steps into a bear trap, which is one thing we did leave out at one point.
There are all kinds of things in the attic, and one of those is a bear trap, which again, because the foreshadowing of the mice, and they show him catching a couple of mice throughout the film, and now he's stepped in the bear trap. He has been checkmated.
He's been checkmated.
Every move he's made has been anticipated and countered.
Yeah.
And now he's just a big heaping pile of dead white guys.
So he goes silent and still, but suddenly sits up, but then falls back down again. We see another figure enter the attic as Katie realizes that it's Rob. He takes the poker from her calmly, begins to stroke her face, and she just realizes that it's him. She calmly goes into him, and then we see the cops are driving them away from the estate. The snow is falling again, and that is the dead of winter.
And a damn fine picture.
A very fine picture. I didn't like this was one that we were thinking of a couple weeks ago at the lounge for when we were going to cover on the show, and once we both said it, we were just like, well, yeah, we have to. Dead of Winter.
It's such a fun one. It's so good. Yeah, and it's very much a dark horse. It's very much underrated. Do you know how it did in the theater?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can find out real quick.
You didn't do your research.
Oh, hang on.
It's okay. You just had one. You had one job.
Box office was $2.4 million. It doesn't have the budget for it though. Unfortunately,
that's not great.
I don't think it did well, unfortunately.
It did like it probably flopped.
Yeah, because from what I could find from the critics, it was running right about a 3.5 rating for most of them.
Well, we know Siskel and Ebert hated it, although after you were showing me some Siskel and Ebert videos before this show, and I don't know that they ever liked anything.
Yeah,
I mean they were just hating on everything.
If you want some entertainment, dear listeners, check out their worst ofs for each year, especially the '90s, because my God, they didn't like us. They hated Drop Dead Fred and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah, and I felt like they didn't get the point of either of those movies. Although Drop Dead Fred's a little sillier than Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
This is true,
but. Yeah. No, after you showed me like 5 or 6 videos of them just being so hateful to so many movies.
Yeah.
I think the only thing more entertaining would be watching their funerals.
Too soon.
I said what I said.
So what I absolutely love about this movie is, like I've said it before, but the setting, the snowy, isolated mansion, and having such a small cast, because you really only have, like you said, about 5 people technically, even though one of them plays 3 of them.
Yeah, well, and the snow is highly isolating because they are not in the middle of nowhere. They're in a like a rich neighborhood.
Yeah,
but when the snow comes down hard, those houses, which are a decent distance apart, may as well be a million miles away.
Absolutely. And I mean, they play with the ability to get through the snow super well in that chase scene, because at one point she is literally grasping at roots to try and pull herself up this hill. She doesn't have a jacket. She's running, in the snow, which she commented on an interview I watched. They shot this in Ontario, Canada, and she said this was one of the 2 coldest film sets that she ever been on. The other one being something that she done in the BBC. But with the real snow on the ground, they did use, of course, they were also doing snow machines that were also blowing it at her. So not only was she running in the snow, but she also had really cold fake snow being blown at her as well.
Well, usually the snow machines are, if they're the high-end ones, which it sounds like it was, it's literally snow. It's like the stuff you get at a skiing lodge or a skiing resort.
Yeah.
So, no, it sounds like it was really cold. It looked cold. And Mary Steenburgen ain't got no fat on them bones.
No, she does not. So final thoughts on this one. I am going to give this a rent it. I think this is one you absolutely need to seek out. And if you do want to buy it, you can find copies of it, but you may pay a little more than you want to. But there may or may not be a new one coming out here in the next year.
Yeah, I'll say rent it, because it's another one of those. All of my ratings have a caveat, which is like, if you're nuts for underrated thrillers, if you're nuts for classic concepts with great actors, great character actors, it's a buy it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I'll say rent it, because I did.
Yeah,
and it was worth the $3.99 or $4.99 I paid.
And then you bought it.
I went on eBay as soon as the film was over, because at the time the Blu-ray was out of print.
Yeah.
But now it's looking like it's going to be back in print, probably by the time, not by the time this airs, but probably shortly after this airs initially.
Yeah, I think they slated it for a February or a March release, I want to say.
But
keep an eye out for Dead of Winter. It is going to be re-released soon, but you can find it readily available right now to stream. And as you know, we like to end the show with another recommendation. I am going to go with the slasher film from 1983, Curtains. 6 young actresses auditioning for a movie role at a remote mansion are targeted by a mysterious mass murderer. This one has all the isolation of the mansion. You've got a straight-up slasher film. You've got a really cool scene where the killer is chasing one of the chicks on the ice as well, with ice skates.
I do like that scene a lot.
Yeah, and also
Curtains is weird as hell.
John Vernon's your director in that movie too, so... Playing the director, not the director of Curtains.
No, that's a good suggestion. I like that one.
Yeah. But no, that is Dead of Winter. Like I said, easily available to find right now. A great thriller, especially with the winter months that we are getting into right now. So if you have not seen it, well, we just spoiled it, but you should still go watch it right now.
Well, and if it's warm weather, it'll chill you.
It'll chill you indeed.
Well, my friends, it's about time we get out of here. Thank you for watching and hanging out with us, listening on Do You Even Movie. If you want to find out anything at all about what we're doing here, you can go to doyouevenmovie.com. We publish episodes on Tuesdays.
Yes.
And whether you're watching on YouTube or listening at doyouevenmovie.com or on your favorite podcasting app, we sure do appreciate it. Please subscribe wherever you're listening. We would appreciate that a whole hell of a lot.
Hell yeah, we would.
And also, if you're on a podcasting app, please leave us a star rating, especially on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps new people find the show. And make sure to share it with your movie-loving friends. If you've got a friend nerdy enough to want to listen to Do You Even Movie, well, hell's bells and taco shells is all I got to say. Dave, what else you got for
So
him?
you can also find us on TikTok and X and Instagram at Do You Even Movie Pod for most of those. We are releasing some really funny TikTok videos and trying to get the word spread on it. So if you want to follow along and share them, we would greatly appreciate that. And also you can find us on Facebook as well.
Yeah. So it also like, comment, et cetera. But now, my friends, we are out of here. Till next week. We'll see you next Tuesday. Funny.
Took you this time.
And also, if you really love what we're doing, support us on Patreon. All that information at doyouevenmovie.com. So until next time, I've been Henrique Couto, and I don't care who he is.
I've been David Denoyer.
Unfortunately. Bye, guys.
See ya.